Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here in the news feed cafe here at the Copley Library for our partnership with GBH entitled GBH Amplifies James Jimmy Hills, yours truly, the host of Java with Jimmy. It is a platform that is broadcast on social media, and so right now I am literally hitting the go live. All right, where is it on this side? The go live. Oh, we're already there. Okay. We are live right now in the Newsfeed Cafe here for GBH Amplifies James Jimmy Hills, host of Java with Jimmy. So please put your hands together for yourselves for being here in the News Cafe today. We are here today to talk about I would say, youthful and Black and experienced perspective on politics and on what we would call electoral politics, campaigning, policy. And I am honored to have some great friends. I respect them professionally and both personally. We have the Davis system who will be here, or who is here with us today. So first, please put your hands together for Errin Davis. She is the Chief Operating Officer for the Davis system. Please welcome her to GBH Amplifies. Additionally, and I will not say her other half, I will say her other 100, because coming into a relationship, going in at 50-50, it doesn't make you 100. They both bring 100% of who they are to their relationship. So her 100% half is Anthony Davis Jr. He is the CEO and founder of the Davis system. Please put your hands together for him as well. So as we are here today, we're going to, as I often do on the platform, I am going to ask both Errin and Anthony to introduce themselves, and at the end of their introduction, Errin, I will ask to give a one-word sort of synopsis for how she's viewing Boston politics right now, local politics, mass politics, and then we'll hear from Anthony as well. Errin, thank you for being here. This is your second time?
Second time on GBH. Thank you so much for having me. Obviously, the same love you express to us, we feel the same way about you, professionally and personally. My name is Errin Davis. I am the Chief Operating Officer of the Davis System, LLC. We are a social impact firm. For me personally, I'm born and raised in Dorchester, Boston area. I am the daughter of two immigrants from the island of Trinidad and Tobago. And I have always been deeply involved in politics. My father just retired from the Carpenters Union after 40 plus years earlier this year. And so I've been on picket lines since before I could even remember. And I've had the distinguished honor of working for electeds in our state, like Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, Senator Liz Miranda, and now have the opportunity to work with my husband doing the amazing work of giving back and cultivating, organizing within our communities. And my one word would be transition. I think that the issues are the same. We are still focused as a community on public housing, on education, on our environment. However, the approach and how we are going about advocating for these, the transparency that is wanted, the accountability, the decision-making happening in cohesion with community is what's changing, and the want for that has increased a lot. And then I'll pass it over to you, Anthony.
Thanks, Errin. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As Jimmy shared, my name is Anthony Davis Jr. I'm the founder and CEO of the Davis System, LLC. As Errin shared, we are a social impact firm that serves at the intersection of both political and community organizing. We work with candidates for office as well as NGO, nonprofit organizations, and help them access power, relate to community, and also connect with community. And so really excited for this conversation today. As Errin said, we both have a background in working for a number of elected officials here in Massachusetts, and I've also had the opportunity to work on political campaigns around the country as well. And some of the work that we do now allows us to have a very impactful presence here in Massachusetts, whether it be with campaigns or organizations. But we also do work outside of Massachusetts that takes us outside of Massachusetts politics that lends a very unique lens to this conversation, I think. And so my one word, and kind of taking a step back and looking outside of just Massachusetts, looking at kind of our national political landscape right now, is my word is suppressing. And I would say that right now that there is a very intentional attempt to suppress the rights of people who look like us on this panel here today. There's a very intentional suppression of joy for people who identify as Democrats or progressives. And there's also an intentional suppression of hope as well. And so we see that playing out in all of our national politics across the board. And I know we'll get to dig a little bit deeper into some of the specifics as well.
We can actually get ready to dig a little deeper right now from the perspective of national politics. Anthony, I'll just go ahead and say it, and we've talked about this before. You're not a native of Boston. And I think the unique, though, let's just unequivocally state that, love Errin, but even away from Errin, he's a son of Boston. We've adopted him, and like Anthony is loved here and appreciated here. But I think, Anthony, not only just with your work, but Boston politics is very interesting. I think we're also in a time where Black people are paying very more attention to the process. And so let's dig deeper right now. And from your perspective, you talked about suppression nationally, but you have a lens that you can, I know Erin's going to lean more in on the local, but I'd like you, before we're going to talk a little bit about the DNC too, but before we do that, let me back it up. Let's talk a little bit about the DNC, and then let's transition sort of into your perspective, Anthony, of kind of comparing and contrasting the purview you have not being from here, now on a national stage, but then you've done a lot of work, have championed elections for Mayor Michelle Wu twice and others. And so first, let's back up a little bit. Errin, I'll start with you. I'll go to one word again. If you were to describe this year's Democratic State Convention, what would be one word, and then give us the context as to why?
I would say this year's convention was flat. Flat. More so because there wasn't a lot happening at this convention. The biggest thing we had to vote on as a delegate was Markey versus Seth Moulton. And so there wasn't a convention started on last Friday. The highlight of the speeches that occurred on Friday was actually Congresswoman Presley. She had the best speech, the one that everyone was talking about the next day in terms of like the impact on our state and the work that we're doing as the Democrats. But on Saturday, the main thing that we focused on was the speeches from both Senator Markey and State Representative, Congressman Seth Moulton. And so ultimately, at the end, there was over 4,000 plus delegates that came to the Massachusetts convention. However, 73% of those delegates voted for Markey, and then there was a 23% who voted for Moulton. Ultimately, in order to get on our September 1st Democratic primary, you do need to have at least 15%. So Moulton did receive that. And so ultimately, Markey and Moulton will both be on our ballots in September. The difference is Markey is the one who has our Democratic nomination and will have the party's support going into the primary versus Moulton.
One quick question on the context of it being flat. Is it because aren't that many contenders, or is it because, and we're going to talk about the ballot questions shortly, but do you have any sort of, from your perspective and purview, why it seemed flat this year?
Yeah, it's because there wasn't too many contenders, and then additionally, a lot of people came in with their minds made up between Seth Moulton and Markey. There wasn't a lot of delegates coming in deciding based on like the speech that they heard in the moment that was going to make the difference. A lot of people knew beforehand, and so it kind of was like a done deal of a vote, understood vote, and so it was very quick in and out of a convention this year, but that doesn't mean the conventions aren't important. As you can see, if Moulton did not have enough people show up and stay for him, even though it felt like a done deal for Markey, his name wouldn't even be on the ballot. His race would be over as of Saturday, but his race can continue because he did have enough Democrats show up for him that want to see him on the ballot.
There's an underlying message in there, Aaron. I think you would agree about consistency and still showing up.
Yep.
Even though things may look one way, it's important to still show up. And we'll talk a little bit more about that notion later. Anthony, anything to add, any perspective from your purview? And you both can compare and contrast. You've been to the national convention and the state convention. Anything to add to what Aaron said?
No, I think that Aaron covered a lot of it. Felt a bit flat in the building, but I would say like being in the space with other Democrats, I think it's always like you feel like this underlying sense of hope as well. I think that in our state, like the beauty of the races, I guess, not being that contested as we go into the primary is that we are building a coalition behind the Democrats that are running statewide. So there's not, what we saw in 2020, with the Senate race, a lot of people were split on both ends. And so we didn't see a coalition forming until after the primary in September, which doesn't give us a lot of time and runway until the November election. And so I think the underlying message was unity throughout that. And then also, and this may kind of like segue into kind of national politics, but there also was an underlying message, especially from those who are running to be federal representatives, about taking on Trump. And standing up to the Trump administration, and even from our Attorney General, Andrea Campbell, who's sued the Trump administration over 40 times, and just this most recent.
How many has she won? Do you know? It's at least what?
Put me on the spot, but yes, she's won a good amount. I think that our state is taking that fight to the administration in a way that we can because of the position that we are in this kind of coalition behind Democrats statewide.
Absolutely.
And just to add to the national point, we in a state where we seeing a lot of Democrats challenging more Democrats, whereas when we see in the South, you're having that Republican Democrat challenge where the money needs to go, where we're spending a lot, especially when Moulton is basically using the same arguments that Kennedy used 6 years ago. It is not a new fight we're seeing. It's the same fight we're basically seeing repeated 6 years later, and even in a more detrimental space nationally, where we can't be wasting funding and a Democratic primary when we need to be fighting these Republican candidates that Trump is sending into our states.
Especially when resources are so limited and people that may have been more inclined to donate and give resources and or time just because of the nature of things that's going on with the economy, at the worst of it, those that are marginalized communities that are dealing with poverty, they may not have the time and or resources. So I hear your point about directing resources. We may not have as much availability as the other party because they're just, all right. Let's stay focused. And Anthony, let's do that deeper dive into, and sort of let's talk about some of the trends that you were seeing nationally. You talked about a lot of the racism, xenophobia, anti-LGBTQI2S+, and just a lot of the intent to suppress us even the more. That is a trend nationally. What are some of the other things that you are seeing trending? I think you talked about them trying to suppress hope. With all of that suppression going on in the trends, please highlight if there are any positive ones as you finish that part about your observations.
Yeah, I think that, so I've had a chance over the last few months to spend time in Louisville, Kentucky, Birmingham.
What part of Kentucky?
Louisville. So
Louisville.
I have to make sure I say it correctly.
That's that DMV coming out.
No.
Oh, they
That's how
told you.
Say it. They taught me. They teach you how to say the word Louisville.
Louisville versus
You have to say it
Baltimore
properly.
and Baltimore.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
Got it.
Or even my name, Errin.
Errin. It's not Errin?
That's how people in Maryland would say it, yes. But spent time in Louisville. I spent time in Birmingham, Alabama. I've spent time in Mississippi and Oklahoma. States that a lot of
That's a
folks
wide range of
here in Massachusetts maybe have never visited those states.
Okay.
People in those states, they refer to themselves as the flyover states.
Can you give? It took me a second. I nodded my head. I got it. While we believe in education, give a little context of why they're considered flyover and what that means.
Yes. So when we're in these spaces and we're talking to Democrats in these states, They say to me, as someone who lives in Massachusetts, that the Democratic Party has a coastal elite problem. And when they're talking about the coast, they're talking about Massachusetts, they're talking about New York, and they're talking about California. That our party politics, the decisions that we make, are to appease donors, voters, and the people in power in those 3 states, essentially. And how much our National Democratic Party actually resembles, how much our state in Massachusetts, our Democratic Party actually is a microcosm of what we see happening nationally. Mm-hmm. When we talk about gateway cities in the state of Massachusetts, those are the flyover states. Those are the states that we have put into this classification because they underperform in elections. They have a number of minority people who live in those cities. They don't have the same political power or economic power. And so we call them the gateway cities so that we can classify them as this terminology to almost neglect them, to under-resource them, to never, as a Democratic Party, mm-hmm. never spend time asking the question, why are these places underperforming in elections? And what are we doing to actually raise that participation in elections? And so what we need to do as a party, both nationally and here in the state, is actually come to terms with these things, that we do have this coastal elite problem, that in this state that we have a problem where we prioritize our metro areas like Boston, like Cambridge, like Worcester, and we neglect these gateway cities.
Let me chime in and ask Errin, based on that, because I wanted to ask you your perspective of trends. And to Anthony's point about Massachusetts being a microcosm of sort of things national, it's said that Boston as the capital city can be a microcosm somewhat of what's going on in Massachusetts. Can you first give me your observations of trends in Boston? And you can go regional, and then compare and contrast what Anthony said as far as what's going on nationally. Do you see any similarities, things more exacerbated in Boston? And I'll say greater Boston because you're not just Boston. Y'all are regional and national. So any perspective there to add based on what Anthony said and focusing on local trends and observations?
Yeah, and so first I would say I think we talk a lot about this during the mayoral race, but the mayor of Boston is pretty much the mayor of New England. And so I think it is even beyond greater Boston. Go ahead.
To Anthony, no. To Anthony, I wasn't going to say anything until you said go ahead, but to Anthony's point about that, the coastal cities and, mm-hmm. and that grouping, if you will, of one mayor in one city that, as you just said, kind of comes across as the mayor from New England. I just, when you said that, I thought about what Anthony said.
Yeah, and so I believe I've said this, but I am a Democratic State Committee member as well. So a part of my work as a Democratic State Committee member is like we see choosing where the funds that the Democratic Party has goes as well. And a lot of our funds are in the Massachusetts, because we're such a high funder state here, actually goes to the other states in New England, or it goes to other states across the South who have no fundraising ecosystems and are struggling. I think that when we talk about the trends that are happening here, Massachusetts tries to be ahead, Boston specifically, we try to be the conversation starters, be the progressive ones who are starting to pass the law so that it can happen in other states, but I actually see more and more of that becoming less of a thing. We're not I don't believe that we have been the same city upon a hill that we have always been known to. We are becoming, I think, Anthony and I were talking about this earlier this week. What does it mean to be a progressive in Massachusetts still? Because that piece right there, I think we've lost that. And because of it, when we're talking about what trends are happening nationally that we also see locally, it's what is a progressive? What is a moderate? What does moderate even mean anymore? Are you even allowed to be
a Democrat?
And so to me, I think I believe right now, we always talk about we need to get rid of the old boys club, the old playbook, things like that. I do believe that when it comes to the old playbook, especially when it comes to organizing in our communities, there are pieces of it that still matter. You can't get rid of door-to-door organizing or phone banking. That's never going to change. Mm-hmm. However, the old playbook is not enough anymore. It needs to also have people accountability. It needs to have transparency. We need to have year-round engagement with our voters, and that is what's missing. If we continue to just do the same playbook without the real authentic engagement, we're going to just see this idea of like, what does it mean to be elected, to be involved in the state of our politics, continue to become more and more polarized. And to pass it to Anthony here, when we looked at our last presidential election, one of the biggest things was Black and Hispanic men who, they said that they were the reasons why we didn't win.
Yeah.
But when we look at our Democratic Party, they pander to Black and Hispanic men. They talk only about their traumas or reincarceration or the recidivism. They're not actually talking to the things that matter to our people, and that is why we continue, whether that is at the local level, the state level, or the federal level, and I can feel like that across all levels of the Democratic Party. We are not authentically talking to our people anymore, and it's just becoming more and more polarized.
A little deeper clarifying question on the polarization. I was at the Men's Summit yesterday, and you, I think, were a peer or simply understand asset versus deficit approach. Are you saying that it might be more advantageous for the Democratic Party, both locally and nationally, to yes, be real about what the issues are, but be more asset approach about what's good around, what's good in the context of Black and brown men?
I don't want to step on any of Anthony's talking points.
As a Black and brown man.
I was going to say, how are you going to answer that question?
Go ahead, Anthony.
Actually.
Generally speaking, not just Black and brown men, but you had said that to a point about the pandering, but...
Yeah.
And Anthony, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go
No, I was actually looking at some data the other day that actually spoke to this specific issue, that like Black men and Black and brown men, as you want to call it, like we care about the same issues that everyone cares about. Like we care about our families. Like we care about healthcare. We care about our children being able to get a quality education. And I think that we too often other the Black man, and we try and make it seem like Errin said, like we're pandering to them, but we're still trying to figure out exactly what are the issues we need to talk to versus including them in that larger vision of a healthy family, a striving family, an economic free family. And I think that when we don't tie Black men into that vision, we continue to push them further and further away. And right now we are dealing with the results of that continued pushing away of men, specifically men of color, and like this isolation crisis that we're talking about, and specifically like even talking about this within the Democratic Party and progressive circles is like
still post last election.
Yes, it's still like a taboo topic in that. You're men, like you have the patriarchy, you have every advantage as a man, like you are isolating yourself on your own, but no, it's much deeper than that. And again, it goes back to the party needing to come to terms with some of their realities and some of their faults as well.
Errin, I want to ask you to go back a little bit to sort of your observations around trends in the local space. I've often been known, and I will say, and I think Anthony and I talked about this once, that I often say Boston politics is changing. It has so the Davis system and I have this thing that we know when something hits Anthony, because and I don't know if you all heard it on air, but when something hits Anthony and he doesn't want to say anything, you'll hear this little grunt. So Anthony just made that grunt. Do you agree that it's changing? Do you agree that it's changed? And then what is your perspective on the changing or what has changed?
Well, yeah, so I think my one word at the beginning was transitioning. So like I do believe that we are changing. I do believe that there are things that have changed. Like when we look at our, right now we're in the middle of our budget season in Boston. And when we look at literally for the last like maybe 4 or 5 weeks, if not more, we've had youth showing up at city council hearings, every hearing, protesting to the point where counselors are calling the police on them to get them sent out of council chamber hearings, apparently, as well. And so
I didn't hear about that.
Security.
Oh, was it,
City Hall,
City Hall's
police
enforcement.
enforcement to clear them out for disrupting council meetings. And so there has been so much going on. And when I think about our youth, when I think about the movements that are having here, I do see our youth taking charge and getting involved in other ways. When I think about our incarcerated communities, our brothers that come out from behind the wall, we have so many groups here that are doing so much to re-engage them. When I think about our environmental groups here in Massachusetts, I do see us still leading the charge in certain spaces, but it's about how our electeds are now communicating with us, because I do see us doing a lot of the work in the nonprofit space and like on the activism side, but I feel like we lost that connection to our city hall in a certain way. Not everyone is feeling connected to city hall in the same way that they used to, and I think our mayor is trying. She's doing like get city hall out of city hall programming and things of that nature, but it's beyond just that. Is how does the everyday person realize that what is happening in City Hall and how they understand it and feel connected to being a part of the decision. Because as I said earlier, with transitioning, it's not just about the work, it's about people feeling like they're part of the conversation before the decision is made.
So thank you for that. And Anthony, based on what you said in the last question, I said I was going to ask you to compare and contrast, you know, Boston and then you being on this national stage. Based on what Errin just said, do you agree that it on the local level we are transitioning? Do you see that we're changing, and any perspective you have on what has changed? And then I will ask you now as we transition, because I want to give actions and I want people to walk away with your perspective about what we can do. What is it also going to change? What is it also going to take to get it to quote unquote change, to kind of go back to Erin's point earlier about this term progressive? Now I have a perspective on the term progressive and who's leading it and that demographic that is not comprised of people that look like you and I. And so compare, contrast local on what Errin said and the advantage, I think, of you not being from here, when I say a thing that Boston is different, I think you would agree.
Yeah.
So please, a lot there, but go ahead.
So two things that I will focus on in response. I want to go back to the point that I made about us having a brand, the Democratic Party having a brand issue, because I think that is also shown on the local level. As Errin shared, we are in the middle of budget season, and at the end of the day, the budget is a reflection of your values, of your priorities. And as Democrats, you would say, you know, as a party, we are the party of working class families, that we are the party of prioritizing education, that we are the party for public safety, but that we are the party for healthcare, we're the party for, we support teachers, XYZ, XYZ, XYZ. But this budget does not necessarily reflect those same values right now here in the city. And so as an onlooker, I would say, I don't need to say anybody's name exactly. I would say all of these Democrats voted for this budget that does not reflect Democratic values. That's a question about both the party.
What are Democratic values?
That's the question. That's the question.
I couldn't resist, Anthony,
because it also goes to your point about progressivism versus not. You know, as an elected official or as a candidate, people run on this platform of progressivism. I want to be a progressive. I'm going to govern as a progressive. But then they get into office and then they endorse conservative candidates. Like, I don't understand the brand. I don't understand the conservative brand. I don't understand the Democratic brand. My other word that I had written down that I didn't say was confusing. Because right now, I would say that the party's brand, this progressive brand, all of that's being conflated together, but none of that is actually, and especially here locally for us, progressive, Democrats, whatever, is failing working class people, are failing young families, and that is shown in the budget. You cannot prioritize. Yes, we understand that the country is losing money, and specifically that the blue states are being attacked. We are under attack by the federal administration, and so that is a reality that there is less money coming into the state, which means that cities are also going to have less money in their budgets. But when you prioritize raises for city councilors, when you prioritize a raise in the BPD budget,
But cutting 400
but you're cutting
jobs
400 jobs to teachers, there's an intentional choice there that was made, and that's also a reflection of values that doesn't necessarily align with the Democratic Party that I was told that we were growing up.
I want to ask you one thing as a CEO, Anthony, and I have had to, within my own mind, try to understand budget versus my impression of, and Mayor and I have talked about this, my impression of her heart. As a CEO, do you understand? I had said on a show earlier this week, nobody will have a lens, nobody will have a purview that Michelle Wu has. That even, well, let's keep it to the governor. I won't go to the other one. As a CEO, can you appreciate that there may be a balance of people, programming, and then you talked about values, but then as a CEO, you got to do a sort of a outlook on. I talked to a state senator yesterday, and they said, "Oh, you think this year is bad? Wait till," because everyone is saying we have not seen the worst. So my point is, do you think that some of the confusion is informed by a prospectus or a looking out from a financial? There's been conversation about the AAA credit ranking, borrowing from the rainy day fund doesn't really mess with. Anyway, my question there is, do you think that and I know you can't speak for the mayor or the governor, but do you think that they are also looking at a financial prospectus when what we believe are the values versus what we're seeing in the budget? You do.
Yeah, I completely get your question, and I think that yes, that is their job to be looking ahead while also managing the now, and that's why we put them in that position. And so I think that there is a balance that has to be that they're striking there. It goes back to the brand, and it goes back to, and maybe we haven't said this yesterday, but it goes back to messaging as well. Like we're seeing what's playing out even here in the city within Black Boston specifically.
Yes.
A lot of disenfranchisement, and I think some of that I put at the feet of Black Boston and our lack of organization, us being joint together, being willing to organize. When I look at what's happening to people in Alabama and Mississippi with this most recent Supreme Court decision, like those folks are organizing. They're coming together. They're not allowing, people are redrawing maps. They're disenfranchising us from having our right to vote. We're not going to just get on Facebook and start talking trash about the federal government or the Supreme Court. We're going to actually get on the ground. We're going to organize. We're going to show up at the Supreme Court. We're going to show up at hearings, and we're going to do something about it. And I think right now that there is a part of Black Boston that we have some responsibility in being more organized to be able to fight back against some of these things. But then at the same time, there are decisions being made without the community and that are not being properly messaged to the community.
Yep.
And so it feels like these things are happening to you and they're being imposed on you and you don't have any type of say or input. And yes, there are hearings, and yes, there are things that happen over time that are supposed to be community accessible, but are you really taking it to the community? Are you making it available at times that are available for families who have young children? Like all of these things that in good faith, yes, you are doing, but is it actually having an impact? Are people actually showing up? Are you, in the same way that you would phone bank on a campaign to ask people to vote for you, are you phone banking to ask people their opinion on the budget?
And I want to just add.
I was coming to you. Go ahead. No, I was coming to you,
I was
Errin.
just going to add that I feel like right now in Boston there has been an influx of like social media influencers as well, who at this point they're commenting on things happening politically as well, but they're not a part of any discussions or conversations or getting talking points on what is happening as well. And I think when we look at like the last mayoral election, a lot of the communities of color, their big thing was the speed bumps and the bike lanes, and that's all they can talk about.
Excuse me, because your husband, you said, Your husband for months told me that I could not use that term, and here you come and said it.
Well, I'm not talking about it in a good way. I was upset too. I stopped asking people their opinion because I was tired of hearing about the speed bumps. And I'm like, we have rent control, we have housing, education, all of these other issues, but y'all keep bringing up these speed bumps. And like, I'm over it. Now we're in budget season, and it's kind of like the same thing. We're seeing a bunch of people online just talking on Facebook about not liking this or not liking that. A few influencers may post something here and there, and you see a lot of engagement, but you don't see the electeds engaging with them. Why are there not more electeds going on those we don't need more of your own
Say that
tea
again.
times
Why there aren't more electeds going on platforms?
versus
Get this camera.
let me say it to the camera. I don't need any more electeds having their own personal tea times and videos on their social, because the real community likely isn't following you anyway. Go to where the community is following. They're following our social media influencers, so make a weekly video with those people, not on your own platform that no one's following anyway. Thank you.
There's one that comes when you say, there's one that comes to mind. One of our counselors is very active. There is I do have to, and I think you would agree, some of that level of engagement.
It can be good.
It can be good, but overall, you being a native here, from the presidency in January until the budget now, in the last 5 to 10 years, have you observed this type of energy?
In our city, no, we've never. First of all, we've never been. This is the closest we've ever been to being cool, and I think that we need to keep on this ride of doing the more of the work here.
Yep.
But I think that our city, again, it's in transition. We are trying to become something new, but it's how we engage with our community that's already here, especially when so many people feel pushed out. Mm-hmm. How do we get to that next stage while continuing to have the level of engagement that brings people in?
Let me ask you this. You mentioned education. We talked about the budget. As recently as of yesterday, the City Council voted to adopt the mayor's proposed BPS budget that, from my understanding, is eliminating 400 positions. There's a conversation about that being a part of our students who are on IEPs, who have unique learning abilities. What is your perspective on that? Either from, because I asked this a little bit in the context of the impact, but then also Anthony talked about, and one of the counselors cited that, there's an exodus. A 400 employee layoff, mm-hmm. That's a huge impact. What are you hearing in community? What is the perspective of budget and 400 positions going away from BPS? And my understanding is right, that will be as of July 1st.
Yeah, it would be for the new.
So right now there are 400 residents that will in the next 30 days may be getting a pink slip.
Yep, for sure. And so, one, I am a former Boston Public Schools employee. I worked for the Office of Equity and Opportunity Gaps for a little bit, so I have that.
Surprised, but go ahead.
So I have some experience there. But additionally, multiple members of my family work for BPS in those lower wage jobs in transportation, as bus monitors, as bus drivers. And when I think about the people who are getting those, first of all, 400 jobs from one department is astronomical. That will have an impact on no matter what department it was. It should have been spread out across more departments, first of all. It should not have been that many, because it's all personnel. It's not like they're saving money in other places. They're cutting personnel, and no other department is getting that level of cut. Additionally, that is paraprofessionals, that is bus monitors, that is teachers that work with students with IEPs. That level of carelessness, when the Boston Teachers Union called every single city councilor, directly asked them to oppose the budget. When the youth that were in the council chambers that day directly asked every single council member to oppose that budget. Reasonings being keeping youth jobs versus none of it, a lot of the examples was, we're going to lose the budget here so that we can have summer youth jobs. But one doesn't replace the other. We need the summer youth jobs, and we need to have those teachers in the classrooms or on the buses with them to ensure safety for our students. And I think if this was spread out, our BPS has already been losing money consistently. It already doesn't have the infrastructure. There needs to be so much more money put into BPS that this was I think, an interesting choice from the progressives on our on our council that, again, don't need to name. You can Google it, but like
Someone in the comments actually said, name their names.
okay, well, the only people who did vote to decline the budget was Julia Mejia, Aaron Murphy, Ed Flynn, Councilor Brian Worrell, and Councilor Culpepper. Everyone else voted to approve the budget.
It didn't go 6-7 this time?
No,
Oh,
it did not. It did not. And so those are the people who voted to oppose the budget, who stayed in line with community and stayed in line with the Boston Teachers Union.
I wanted to ask your perspective, Anthony. Well, Errin, first of all, to respond to what you said, as we should, the impact on students, I think, is the first thing that comes in the minds of people. But I'm hearing unemployment in a time that the regulations, and presumably if you're on unemployment and can't afford to do COBRA when you get laid off, you're going to be on some sort of state level of health insurance. We know that a lot of the big, beautiful bill stuff doesn't kick in until the end of this year. I heard that there's more than impact on the students. I hear impact on families. I hear impact on the economy. I hear impact on food pantries. I hear impact on people maybe making a choice between food and fuel, because a lot of that impact isn't going to translate itself until the fall and the winter. Anthony, any perspective there to add about that impact on budget cuts? Errin focused on the 400 students. There are other implications in the mayor's proposed budget. I'll just say that I had a lot of conversations yesterday with a couple of city councilors and our mayor. There are some things that are being restored at last year's level. We observed that on an external basis, the mayor has covered veterans, immigration, the firefighters, cancer, from what happened with healthcare screenings, and then it was veterans and summer year-round jobs with the partnerships that they're having. Your observation, just your awareness of the budget and any implications or trends that you're seeing.
I don't have a lot to add, I'll be honest.
Yep.
I think that I would say probably not in a positive light, I would say to add.
Okay.
Because I'm also thinking about other departments that saw cuts, specifically the Black Office of Black Male Advancement.
My understanding is they got back to level funding as of yesterday.
Okay.
Now,
so there's so much moving around.
and yesterday they postponed the vote
to January
for a week
10th.
for more working sessions.
Which I agree with.
I agree with too. Let me ask you, have you to maybe something that you could sort of speak on in a even-keeled light? Have you tuned into any of the working sessions or any observations around just what's going on with the energy around the budget?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I do have thoughts here, and I think that the most important, I think, observation that a lot of people are starting to see is that that it feels as though the counselors who are aligning with the mayor don't have a lot of autonomy to make decisions that may not align directly with her. I think Boston Policy Institute has done a great job of kind of documenting votes over across the budget season and doing a great job of providing visuals for us to see kind of across the board how counselors tend to vote. And we see that kind of that 6-7 delineation where the 7 tend to lean towards the mayor. And you look at some of the happenings that happened last year. I'm thinking about a very specific council hearing last year where we saw a counselor come to tears about a vote that they were going to have to make, that you could see that his values didn't align with probably the vote that that they were going to have to take. Sorry to gender.
All good now. I know.
Oh gosh.
and we, I think as a people, we should be concerned about that to an extent. But also, there are 400 people who are probably thinking right now, I'm about to take on one of these city councilors who voted against me having a job. When you think about 400 people getting laid off from their job, and that there was a small group of people who kind of impacted that or made that decision on your behalf, I would be looking at taking them out. I would be looking at coming for their jobs. I would look at taking them. If it's not me, then somebody from our 400 group of people who probably would be looking to run for office, so that these type of decisions don't get made in the future.
Meanwhile, though, I just texted my mother right before coming on the show, telling her about this vote. She is a bus monitor. She's at work. no idea that that happened yesterday. And so it immediately happened yesterday, but nothing is going, I am positive nothing will be communicated until it is time to start the new school year.
To give out the pink slips. That is a mental health impact. That is a financial impact. That is, what if somebody just got their credit together and they was right on the cusp of getting their house, and then now, and which now contributes and further widens the racial wealth gap. Based on what Anthony said about people getting ready, to maybe run, let's kind of, for the net, we have a couple of minutes left, kind of a quick, just open conversation. I want Errin to close us out since she's up here with the two guys. Anthony, what do you think it's going to take to get us to a point from ING to ED in reference to changing, and where we can sit back one day, it may not be perfect, but we can say, well, damn, it changed. What's some of the ways that everyday people or action is what I'm asking about right now?
Yeah, so my one call to action to everyone is to pay attention to the state legislative races that are happening this year. I think we tend to pay a lot of attention, obviously, when the president's on the ballot. Even here in Boston, we tend to have great turnout when the mayor's on the ballot. But in those in-between years, when it's maybe just city councilors on the ballot or state legislative races on the ballot, and there's not a competitive governor's races or there's not a competitive attorney general's race, we tend to not turn out. And what's happening at our state legislature is criminal. I have to be honest. I'm sorry.
That's a deep statement.
I don't have any other word.
You are a English major. You
Yes.
don't mince your words.
I do not. When I travel to some of these flyover states that have conservative state houses, conservative governors, conservative leadership, their state houses are passing bills that are literally having national implications. They are passing bills that are harming people, LGBTQ people, black and brown people, low-income people across their state. But they're effective at doing those things. We come to Massachusetts and we have all this pride in being a blue state and having a Democratic majority in our state legislature. But if you all can look this up, Massachusetts state legislature is literally the most ineffective state legislature in the country in terms of actually passing bills.
Yeah.
We do not pass bills, although we have this majority in terms of Democrats. And so right now, in the state of Massachusetts, there are a number of candidates who are taking on incumbents who have been at our state legislature for years, for decades even, who are coming in with that mindset of, we should not have one of the least effective state legislatures in the country. And so September 1st is our primary date here in the state of Massachusetts. Look into who is running for your state representative roles in your district, who is running for state senate, because more than likely the person who's been there has been contributing to us having one of the least effective legislatures in the country. There's no reason why year after year we have to continue to rely on ballot measures or ballot initiatives to actually get progress done in our state. The reason why that continues to happen, the reason why there are pages of ballot questions on your ballot is because the state legislature is not doing anything, and the only way that we're getting things done is through ballot measures. And so my call to action is pay attention, look up who are your state representatives, make sure that you have a plan to vote on September 1st, and I would look into how effective or more than likely ineffective your current state legislator and state senator has been in their position.
We're going to do this. We did it coming up on 2 years ago, but me, you, and Carl, I don't remember how, but we did a show on the ballot questions. And I remember kind of getting the text to put a document together. And one of the first lines that all of them read, I don't know if it said failed, but it said the Massachusetts state legislature did not make a decision essentially on this. With ballot questions also come, a lot of more education that needs to be done. And as in real time, I'm thinking about this. The benefit of it going to a ballot is at least people are being educated and can vote on it, versus if it's in the legislature, though representing us, we may not have as much input. We should, even in that process, we should, but that was just a real-time thought. We have to wrap up in a couple of seconds, and I want to give our wonderful, black, beautiful queen the opportunity to close us out. But before I do that, I just wanted to make sure I got everything that I wanted to extract from Anthony. Last thing is, you can close us out, but Anthony, anything coming up for the Davis system? How can folks reach you? Are you taking on new clients? How can people translate what they're hearing here and get you in a room, bring you across the country or whatever? How do folks contact you? What are you doing?
So we are at the Davis System LLC across all platforms, social media. You can reach out, message us there. We are taking on new clients. We're currently working with a few state legislative candidates here in the state who are taking on some of those incumbents who have been ineffective. And so we're really excited about what's to come here in the state, and then also exploring opportunities outside of the state as well.
Absolutely. Errin, you're closing us out as far as guests. I'll give the final word, but did we miss anything that you wanted to mention as far as action? And yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, I don't really have much to close out because I feel like what Anthony closed on, the call to action, is key and wraps up a lot of what we've been talking about. Is about paying attention and to these, as we know here in Massachusetts, all politics are local, so pay attention there. But I would, because we are not at the level yet where things are not being pushed to the ballot, also, in addition to what Anthony said, also look at the numerous amount of ballot initiatives that are going to be on the ballot this year. We have things on all state primaries, and that will affect how we vote in our next presidential election. We have rent control. We have numerous different tax collections. We have marijuana legislation, income-related things, literally the gamut, because we have an ineffective legislator. And so please take a look at those as well. And of course, Jimmy, thank you for having us on, and look forward to coming back again to maybe talk about ballot issues.
We will have, I can almost assure you that we will not have the ability to have Anthony and Errin back before the primary. I want to let you know that this is our last episode for the season.
Ah.
We are taking the summer off for July and August, and so we will be back on September, hold on, because my birthday is on Tuesday the 8th. The first Thursday will be September,
First, the selection is.
September 1st? 3rd. So we will be back here on September 3rd, 2 days after the primary. Maybe we can get y'all to come back and report out. I want to especially thank everyone that is here today. I want to thank them for being a part of the GBH Java with Jimmy team. I want to thank my producers, Sandra Lopez Burke. Did I get that right? Yes. Okay. Lauren Hunter, Juan, Jose. Ain't no way in the world. I'm going to butcher that up. I also, Errin talked about our reentry community. I just want to acknowledge one of the guests that was here that's in studio today, Yard Time Entertainment. Yard Time Incorporated, look them up. There's a big event coming on June 20.
He wasn't in the yard.
On June 28th. And also on, I'll go to that. So I want to thank everybody here at GBH, Steve and Chris. I think I got everyone. Our new cameraman, I can't remember his name. Lauren, Sandra, help me. Our cameraman with the wonderful mane. Steve and Patrick. I want to thank them. And I just want to, again, thank my guests. I want to thank my brand producer who comes down from Worcester every month. Her and her husband is here.
Can I
yes, go ahead.
I just wanted to say really quickly, happy birthday, Kennedy, and congratulations, Amaya, on graduating high school. My two nieces had a lot going on.
You're going to get in trouble if you didn't do that.
I am.
As we get ready to close today, I encourage all of us to please enhance and expand our attention to the electoral politics space. Be more civically engaged. We are going into the summer, and it tends to be a time that is interesting for Black and brown communities. And while in print it is said that we are the safest city in the country, that doesn't translate to the young man that texted me last night and said, it's like a movie. They just shot up my street. Literally, I have a text on my phone. I say that because it is important in reference to the budget and public safety. I said earlier this week that an investment is going to be made. Will it be made with intention, or will it be made with inconvenience? And so I encourage you all as the viewers and the residents, as the voters, to exhaust yourselves with information. Be overly informed. Be the person that when you walk up, the first thing they say is, oh my God, here they come, they're gonna stop talking about politics. If you flush the toilet, you're into politics. If your children go to a municipal ran city school, you're in politics. If you walk down the street and there's a piece of paper or a banana peel on the street that did not get cleaned up and you fall, you're political. And so everything that we talked about today is important to our daily, day-to-day lives. Pay attention to what's going on, be informed, have a safe summer, plan to come back and be with us on September 3rd. Come out to celebrate One Love Sports Academy that's having a 5K run on June 27th. And then the next day, y'all will be riding bikes with Yard Time and the Life After Prison Project on June 28th. The Davis System website, Yard Time Incorporated website, One Love Sports Academy website, and of course, follow us on over the summer if you would like to follow us and stay in touch. James W. Hills or Java with Jimmy on all social media platforms. Thank you for being with us this season. We will see you in September. Godspeed and a safe summer to all of you. Thank you.
Make sure you vote on September 1st.
Yes, vote September 1st.
Vote September 1st.